It's day 13 of my year facing fear, and today I faced a fear that I feel as though I'm going to be working on this fear for the rest of my life, because I have bbeen trying to get over my fear of driving next to the concrete barrier on the freeways. You know, those damn, why on earth would they put these massive concrete barriers up on the freeway? Am I the only person that is scared stiff of them? Because every time I drive down those concrete barriers, I feel my whole body tense. So my heart starts palpitating, and my hands grip the steering wheel. It's like my knuckles, they start to turn white. And my thoughts, like, what the hell? I start imagining this worst case scenario, like I'm going to ram into the side of it. I can first remember feeling like that. I remember driving in Perth, and I was in my mid-20s. I'd gone to see my brother, and they had the barriers on one of the Perth freeways then. And I remember just absolutely freaking out and driving down the road like this and just being so anxious and so irritable and so, like feeling as though I actually wasn't going to make it off the road. And I've been scared of them ever since. So on the way to see my friend for a cup of tea, I took the freeway and I drove along that concrete barrier. And I had a few things in place. And so I know from the research that combining these fears with a positive experience and really trying to manage my state is helpful. And so I was doing a lot of the physiological side, 2 breaths in, maximum capacity, long breath out, trying to manage my state. And also I was listening to a podcast, and I think that really helped. So this time today, it wasn't quite so bad. I remember 2 years ago, we went to see The Killers as a family, and we had such a great time. But at the end of the night, I lost the car, because honestly, never ask me to find something or to give you directions, because I cannot. I lose everything. So I lost the damn car. And you know what it's like with concerts, there's thousands and thousands of cars. So I lost the car, and by the time we found it was really, really late, midnight, 1 o'clock, I'm not sure. So we were driving home along the freeway. I was the designated driver because I didn't drink. And then we got to the concrete barrier, and I don't know if it was because I was just absolutely exhausted and it was really late, and I was just maybe emotionally just, I was done for the day. But then when we got to the concrete barrier, I was really scared. And I just couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. And that was scary, particularly with the kids in the car. And so this is something that I'm trying to work on, but I'm scared. And it stems back, I think, from in my late teens. I had really a shitbox of a car, an Alpha Romeo Alfetta, and my boyfriend at the time, we drove up to 1,500 or so kilometers north of Western Australia, where I live. This beautiful little town, Coral Bay. It's just, if you've never been, it is incredible. The water is pristine. It's part of the national park where the whale sharks and everything are incredible. And the fish literally come all the way to where your feet are, and there's fish everywhere, and it's just breathtaking. And there was this little shop there, and I went and bought this mirror. It was sort of like this long mirror, and it had this lead, pattern around the side. And the lady said to me, she packed it beautifully in this box. It was like this little coffin. It should have been a sign. And she said to me, even if you have a car crash and die, thank you for that, even if you have a car crash and die, this mirror will be fine. I think she jinxed me, because about a couple of hours, about a couple of hours later, we were driving. We had about 1,500 or so kilometers to get back to Perth, and we were driving down the freeways. I don't know how fast it is, 100 odd, 120 kilometers per hour. So you're going really fast. Desert, there's nothing in sight. There's ditches on the side of the road, and we blew a tyre. And it was almost as though everything from that point just happened in slow motion. And it would have happened in a fraction of a second, but even now it's just... And it was a long time ago, it was 30 years ago, but even now it's almost like... Oh. And so I should preempt this by saying that it was a really old car. I'm really embarrassed to admit this, but the master cylinder was going, so basically the brakes were spongy. And whilst we were driving up, we had a sheep had crossed the road and the brakes hadn't really worked. And so my partner at the time had put the handbrake on to stop the car. Unfortunately, the poor sheepy still died. He got hit, which was very, very sad. But so the brakes weren't great. And so when the things you do when you're a teenager, hey, crazy. And so when the tyre blew, the car started to skid and we lost control, and he was pushing the brake, but nothing was happening. We weren't stopping and we were skidding, and so I put the handbrake on. I'm very, very embarrassed to admit that. Who would put the handbrake on when their car is skidding at 100 odd kilometers an hour? Me! So I put the handbrake on, and I wasn't even driving, but I put the handbrake on. And so we were skidding, and then all of a sudden, bang. And we flipped over. 1, 2, 3. And even now, it's 30 years ago. But wow, even now, and as we went over for the last time, his head hit against and he was fine, but his head hit against the ground, and then we came to a stop. And the car, and the first thought of my thought was, is he dead? I thought he was dead. But he wasn't, he was fine. But the car literally, thank God it wasn't one of these new cars, otherwise it would have been a crumpled up piece of whatever. But the roof was literally like this. It had just bent in like a tent. And interestingly enough, the car was an absolute write-off. But when we got our belongings back, the mirror, we opened the box, and the mirror was perfectly fine. It didn't have a scratch on it. And it's still, that damn mirror is still at my mum and dad's house up on their wall as a constant reminder to the fact that, of that day, I guess. And so this is something that I've been working on. And I think through my year facing fear, it's something I'm thinking of all the different ways that I might be able to approach this, because I still have more than a fear. I think it might be described as a phobia in terms of this irrational fear that I have about being a passenger, but particularly driving along the concrete barrier. And perhaps it's just that fear of losing control and fear of, particularly if I'm the one in the passenger seat, and not having control and not being able to stop us from hitting or crashing. It's something that I'm working on. And so I'm looking at hypnosis and EMDR, which EMDR they've now found that, and that's these lateral movements of the eyes, but actually what they've found in this new research is to explain how it works, is that moving your eyes in that way while you're recounting a traumatic experience actually has been found to work on the fear circuitry in your brain and dampen that fear response. There's some really fascinating research about that. And so this is a big one that I'm working on this year. This is one that, anyone who's driven with me will know that I'm not a good passenger, and it's not fun driving with me either. So it's a big one for me. And so it's one I'll be working on again and again and again and again, facing it. And I can feel that it's already getting easier, but there's a long way to go. Some of the fears that I've been facing in this challenge are teeny tiny, and then there's these ones that have been around for so long. and that are so deeply embedded into my body. And the research tells us that if you have a traumatic event, it can be a one-time experience. And that one time is actually enough to change your gene expression, to embed that into your body, into your nervous system. And that's definitely the case with me. And so I know that this isn't an easy fix, but it's one that I really want to work on. Thank you for being part of this beautiful community and sharing your stories with me and your experiences with me. And it's been such an absolute pleasure getting to know you and getting to know more about, as human beings, what the hell it is that we face. And until next time, I want to remind you that you have absolutely got this, that I believe in you. And until next time,